and we developed a friendship, a relationship. He came out and supported Marcus Anthony Hall, one of our fundraisers. Well, actually, he came to two because you were a guest speaker at our graduation in May, and so we are here today. I've been trying to get him on my show for a minute, but he was always busy. But that's okay, because he's also the president of the Urban League, correct?
Yeah, the chair of the board with co-chair with my good friend Aisha Miller. So
Okay. Oh, I didn't know. I mean, Aisha.
she's the
Yeah.
vice, but
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
a team. We're a team with Rasan Hall. who's
Right,
great.
right. Yes, yes. Me and Rashawn, and I met his wife for the first time, were out in Somerville doing voter registration,
Nice.
education around questions and the election and everything. So yeah, I told him I wanted to talk to him about Marcus Anthony Hall. So Josh, how are you?
I'm great, Priscilla, and it's great to be here with you and Pastor Wall, whose reputation is unequivocal and powerful here in the community, in the city. And, you know, Priscilla, I got to know you through your work with Marcus Anthony Hall, and it's so important to teach the next generation the
Right.
importance of civic engagement, no matter how they want to exercise it.
That's so
And-
correct.
And that's what drives democracy. That's what's kept us going for hundreds of years here. So
Yes, I'm happy. I know you know the story of how Marcus Anthony was birthed, unfortunately, through a tragedy. But I can honestly say that that tragedy has brought a lot of different things, not only to my life, but to his son's life and his son's mother's life, who you have met.
yeah,
And
Shiaka.
yeah, and it does my heart good, because I love the youth that I work with. It's just like we just completed our 4th cohort, and so we're getting ready to start our next one up in January. So I'm really excited, because you know when you work sometimes and you do a lot, and you just feel like sometimes what you're doing doesn't make a difference. And then I'll get an email from one of my students' parents saying thanking me for working with their child and letting me know that their child is changing and wants to still be involved with our organization. So I'm happy about that, because I see the youth. I'm this year I want to plan like a family reunion, like with the youth. Marcus Anthony Hall was birthed in 2021, but I've been working with these young folks through Madison Park since 2015, and so I've had the radio broadcast with Pastor Bruce Wall since 2015. And I'm a member of this church. I've been a member of Global Ministry since 2017. And so I basically, I'm about liberation. I'm about freedom. I'm about empowering my community. There's so much negative stuff that goes on, and I like to see good things happen. I like to see us being able to have good jobs, for us to be able to have what we need to make it. There's a lot of discrepancies in that goes on in our city and in our country. I mean, we have an election. We have the most important election coming up in a few weeks that I think I'm gonna ever see in my lifetime. And so I'm just here trying to educate and encourage our people to go out and vote. I think about my friend Makia Baker Gomez a lot, and it's like she's sitting on my shoulders, like saying, "Go ahead, Priscilla, go ahead, push forward." And so, I just believe that my tagline, "We are the people, we have the power." I believe that. I really believe that. I believe it takes all of us together, because when I look at government sometimes, and when I look at government, and then when I look at community, there's a distant.
Disconnect.
Yeah, disconnect, exactly. And so I'm just about supporting my community, helping us, the young folks.
Well,
You
you've
know?
definitely done that throughout your life, so hats off to you. And as you're trying to get these kids civically engaged, it's people that come to this country and they can't believe, from no matter where they're coming from, certain countries that they're coming from where they're like, how can you not exercise your right to vote? Where I'm coming from, I never had the chance to vote. And it's a privilege to vote. And instilling that in our next generation, as you're doing, Priscilla, is so important.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So let's talk about, you want to talk about the Urban League and what's going on over there, or what you all are doing, working on? Because it's right in our community. So
Of course,
And
of course.
another thing, we've been seeing you a lot too, Josh. In the community at different events. So we watching you.
I got you. Well, I was, and some folks know, I was always, this is how I'd say it, I was always doing the work in community, but I guess I'd say in the last 18 months, I've been a little more,
Focused.
focus, or instead of being low key about it, I'm a little more, I'm less low key about doing it lately. Excuse me.
Okay.
So if that makes sense, because I've been doing the work. I've been in the community for a while.
You
just
did a
sort of
lot
under the radar
with the
but-
Boys and Girls Club. Tell us about that, because you were there for like 30 years.
Yeah, I was there for 30 years. I started back in the fall of 1990 in South Boston doing outreach for kids who were having issues, school, whatever, in the housing developments, Old Colony, Old Harbor, and D Street, and spent a couple of years there doing that outreach program. Then I was over in Chelsea for 15 years. I started a Boys and Girls Club in the basement of public housing when the city was in receivership in the schools. And we and a great group, as you know, through your work, you get a group of civic-minded volunteers. We got business leaders, community folks, and we built a beautiful building. It became a prototype Boys and Girls Club. And the national office still uses it. We opened it in 2002, February of 2002. And then shortly after that, I became CEO of Boys and Girls Clubs of Boston. So I was in all the neighborhoods, everywhere. And concurrently, I was doing a lot of Patriots Foundation work. So I was also in the community with that hat on. And so I've just, and the Boys and Girls Club was great because, our parents always told, our dad still says it, and our late mom always said, look, your worst day is most people's best day. So you need to always look out for people, and especially people that are marginalized and overlooked, because everybody deserves access to opportunity. And you've had a great life, and you have to make sure in your lives you do that. So, and that's what Boys and Girls Club did. Two kids could walk into a building with completely different situations outside the building, but they'd have access to the same opportunities, from homework help, college visits, to work, athletics, fitness, to just hanging out and connecting with kids. And that's really what you do. That's what democracy is about, access to opportunity.
Exactly, and that's what I would like to give my youth. I don't really want to go down the Boston Public School track, but there's a lot of things that are going on within our Boston Public Schools that are not helping our children. The fact that we want to elect a school committee. We spend, the budget for the school committee goes up. It's like 1 point something billion, $4 or $5 billion. It goes up. But to hear some of our elected officials say, well, only half of the children are even going to school. And that's a problem. That's a problem. Our young folks are not getting the same education and the same resources as other areas of our city and state. And so we need things. First of all, we need elected school committee. Let me just say that. And we did ask for one, but it didn't happen. But I feel like if the school committee was elected and maybe even had added more members to it, it would be better. I mean, because we should have teachers and social workers and guidance counselors and nurses. Those are the people that should be on the school committee. You should have children either in school, in the Boston public schools, or have been in the Boston public schools, And so that's where I think that's a major issue. That's a major issue. Another major issue is housing. I mean, it's just insane of all the construction work that is going on in the city. I just get dizzy sometimes. I mean, we have a brand new city, the Seaport. Okay, 13,000 people live in the Seaport. That's another city, right?
Is that what it is? 13,000.
Yes, that's why we had to go through the redistricting nightmare, and so that's another concern. Wow. Jobs. I mean, I sit on the Boston Employment Commission, and it's just so frustrating. We meet the third Wednesday of each month, and it's just really frustrating to see these developers continually come in and make excuses for why there aren't Boston residents, people of color, and females on their jobs. You have a company, they have 14% Boston residents, 85% people of color, and 8% females. So all that's telling me is that you're not looking at Boston residents. What you're doing is bringing a whole bunch of people from outside of the city, people of color. But still, what about Boston residents? It's the Boston resident job policy. Mm-hmm. So that's one of my fights that I've been fighting for a while, ever since the Bruce Boland building was built. And so so these are the things that I'm concerned about. And I'm not an elected official, but I feel like my community is my community, and if I can help, I'm going to do it.
Understood. Yeah, no, and you're doing it with the kids and teaching them the power of civic engagement. Mm-hmm. Why you got to take it in, even if it's just one issue. You got to, mm-hmm. Make it important.
Well, I know that there's some youth that are really upright, coming into their being. I was at a meeting last night with More Than Words, mm-hmm. which is, James Mackey.
I know More Than Words.
They got a nice new building over there on East Berkeley Street.
Yeah, by Pine Street.
Right.
Yeah.
So James Mackey is he has a very high position in there. On there, it's something around political, because mm-hmm. we worked with him because they want to raise the age of juvenile delinquency. So instead of sending 17, 18, 19-year-olds to prison, they want to raise the age up to 21, because a youth's brain really isn't developed until 25,
until
26.
They're 20, so mid-20s.
25 or 26.
Right.
And so they want to raise it up because, I mean, that just makes these, and they're young. They're babies, really. You send a 17, 18, 19-year-old to prison with grown men, killers and murderers and all kinds of stuff. So what's their mind gonna? What do they, if they ever get out? What's it gonna look like?
And
then we have
that's an important issue.
Then we also have the folks that have been incarcerated for crimes that they didn't even do for years. Sean Ellis got accused killing the police officer. Yep. Stephen Pina, I don't know what he got accused of, but it was like 28 years he spent in prison for something he didn't do. Then we got Mac Hudson. We got Joey Bennett. So we have all these folks that have literally been spent like a lifetime in prison for things that they didn't do. And that's why they come out with the intent to help build their community, make it different. We got some warriors in our community.
Yeah, no, and I know one of the things that's important to our family is reentry, whether someone's incarcerated wrongly or rightly. Mm-hmm. Reentry is so important because, not just for the humanitarian issue, like someone comes out, you make sure there's access to things, but also it's a public safety issue. These folks coming out can speak to the next generation. Like, don't do the stuff I did, and can work with community, as you just said, and build community. And I think reentry is an important issue that needs to be, taken seriously. And I know something my family, my dad was one of the founders of the Reform Alliance with Jay-Z, and where they reform, going back to the juvenile justice, but also sentencing reform, et cetera, and also great reentry work.
This is People Power with Priscilla. We are the people, we have the power. I have with me Josh Kraft, who is the president of the New England Patriots Foundation. He is also the CEO, not the CEO, the chair, the board chair of the Urban League. So if you all have any questions, y'all can call 617-282-0685, 617-282-7794, or 617-265-2679. So, nobody's calling me today. I wonder why. Well, see, we Pastor's giving me something. I'm watching on your website. Ask him if he's running for mayor. Why don't you call in and ask him? Tell him, text him and tell him to call in and ask him.
Well, I can answer that by just saying, look, I want to focus on community work that the Patriots Foundation and Priscilla's done, and any decisions about my future professionally. I haven't made any of those decisions yet. But I do.
He keeps saying that. I haven't made any of them decisions.
But I know today I told Priscilla that let's focus on the great community work that we all do. And, of course, the pastor, too, is such a legendary man and the leader in the city.
Yes, he is. He is.
Yeah.
Hold on. We got a caller. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Priscilla. This is Jamal calling in. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, Jamal. How you doing?
All right.
Crawford. Yes. Go ahead.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Kraft.
Jamal, how you doing today?
All right, very well. Now, we have not met, I don't believe.
No.
Okay, yes, but I'm hoping to actually meet you, so I'm going to take this opportunity to kind of give you the pitch that I want to lay out, not just for you, but for the listening audience.
Okay.
So, as a black activist, community activist, and so on and so forth, I have concerns because every election cycle, oftentimes we as a community are bombarded with, a myriad of various personalities. And in the past, if you remember when Elizabeth Warren was initially elected, or even before that, the phenomena that was on the Republican side, if you remember Scott Brown, if you remember when Joseph Kennedy III, and, rest in peace to his mother, and, condolences for the loss of Ethel Kennedy the other day. From all accounts, she was a good lady. But some of these people breeze into town, and we never know what their true commitment to the black community or the black culture is. Now, for me, I know a lot of people who are, in my view, clamoring towards you as they did some of those other people, because, of course, your name, you have money. Now, I'm not a sports guy, so I'd be more excited if you were actually, Kraft from the mayonnaise people. You know what I mean? The Patriots thing doesn't really, move for me. I don't pay attention to that. So I really want to understand, what is your history with the black and beyond the Boys and Girls Club and the stuff that we know? I'm talking about how you grew up. What is your knowledge of black history and culture, and how do you see yourself as being a partner for the black community, differentiating yourself from the people before who, in my view, are often carpetbaggers, if you will?
Understood. Thank you, Jamal. So beyond the Boys and Girls Club, I'll just, we've done a lot of work, or I've done, my family has, with the Patriots Foundation. We've done reentry work. We funded Operation Exit here in the city, which got people, young kids coming out, hired by the unions into training programs. I went to graduation every year, worked with people on the ground. I don't want, I can throw out names, but I don't know if that matters to you. In addition, as the chair of the Urban League, one of the things that's always been important to me, and I told Pastor Wall and Priscilla when I came in this morning, and this was instilled in us as kids by my parents. I said earlier, they said, you got to always look out for those that are overlooked or marginalized, and always make sure there's access to opportunity for everybody. And I always tell the story about in the late 30s when the Nazis were coming to power in Germany, and they forced out all the Jewish professors from universities, and they all wanted to come to the United States, but colleges wouldn't hire them because they were Jewish, except a group of colleges in the South, the HBCUs. And 70, 80 of these professors were hired down south. And so that was in the early 40s. And right away, they saw a connection between the Jim Crow South, the restrictive South on African Americans, black families, and what they experienced in Germany. And and if you look at the early days of the civil rights movement, the Jewish, especially in the South, were highly involved, Jewish leaders, in everything and anything. And that was always a lesson that was instilled on us as kids. And I think whether, as I mentioned earlier, was Operation Exit, our funding of programs, whether it's Priscilla's work or other organizations. I don't want to sit here and give you a litany. I could rattle off a few other programs and support we've done, but that's sort of the calling I've always had. And the other thing is another historical fact that was implemented with us was in a little earlier than the late 30s, much earlier. Booker T. Washington worked with a Jewish leader, Julius Rosenwald, and they built 5,000 schools in the South because it wasn't separate, and it was separate and unequal. And these schools were for black students. They called the Rosenwald schools. They built towns around them. And I think I know there was a study done on the students that attended those schools recently, like 10 years ago, because the schools are no longer, and their life expectancy of those students was higher than kids who or African-American students who didn't go to the Rosenwald schools. And these are the lessons that have been instilled in us, always about access to opportunity, always about providing that. So that's the history. You asked about what do I understand history? That's the history I understand.
Jamal, thank you for your question. We have a couple more callers.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Hey, Jamal, thank you. Have a nice day.
All right. You too. Peace.
Yeah.
Grace. Good morning, Grace.
Good morning, Sister Priscilla. Thank you for all that you do.
You're welcome.
I do have a question for your guest, Mr. Kraft.
Mm-hmm.
I have two. One is around the you're head of the Patriots Foundation, and I'm a Boston resident. Lived here all my life and raised my family here, and I want to know why. Because most of the games, when I was raising my children, I wasn't able to afford to send them to the football games, and I've gone to the games at the Garden and the Fenway, and mostly you don't see black people there, and so for a long time, you don't see black people there because I believe one is the money, and I know that they used to like sometimes give tickets to some nonprofit here and there. I heard that, but now I feel like that in this city, the quality of life, um, black people are not able to enjoy the city due to money because those things cost money. So I don't. When you leave here and you go down there to along Storrow Drive, you see people bike riding, skating, boating, and I think that whites get to enjoy the city, whereas blacks are not enjoying the city, and it's looking like that more and more here in Dorchester as well, where blacks, the children are inside, fearing, can't go outside. Black males in particular fear for their lives to go out and enjoy the city. So the quality of life is just imbalance on the quality of life here. So I just want to say that. And I just want to hear what you have to say about, now you're saying you're with the Urban League. And I know that the Urban League has a history of providing training. And so what is your vision for that? Because there's also, the Seaport area is supposed to be the innovation district. That innovation, all that's happening, startup, people are going and starting tech companies, and they have so much resources there to help those startup companies. And over here, there's no innovation. That innovation district is not reaching the public schools. We don't have startups. We don't have that culture here. We don't have the angel investors. We don't have our youth coming up with ideas for startup companies. That innovation district is not happening in our community. And so I know that the Urban League, has a history of training and all that stuff. But we don't have that startup culture. We're not a part of the growth of that innovation district. We're not benefiting from that. And there's no connection to the youth, to the schools here, so that the youth, know about that startup culture, which is exception with Build, the program that, whatever. So I just like to hear what the plans for the Urban League and helping our community connect with innovation, the innovation district there, also, science, the science labs, that whole biotech industry, all these growth industries that our community is a disconnect. So I'm going to stop right there.
Thank you, because we do have another caller. Go ahead. You're going to answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
You want me to? Briefly, I'll just say, Grace.
I'm going to hang up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. I'll just be brief. I've been completely blown away in a positive way about the leadership of Rasan Hall. And one of the things, Rasan, myself, Aisha, and the board, we got great board folks, Linda Champion, Marie St. Fleur, so many other great leaders on the board. And that's that's what we're doing now, is creating partnerships with businesses and for the new innovation economy, I guess I'll call it. I'm not a big tech guy, but I think they call it the innovation economy, and it's a lot of the work we're doing now is creating these new partnerships and finding new pathways to direct folks that use the workforce development programs at the Urban League. And so, Grace, we're actually in the early stages of addressing exactly what you just said.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I believe we have another caller.
You had to hang up.
Oh.
I'm trying to get him back.
Okay. So, yeah. So, I people are interested. People, did you text Singer back? Okay. And so, as you see, our community, is suffering, and I'm sure you know that. And I didn't know you had all them people. Linda Champion, I know her. Marie St. Floyd. Good morning, Carly. You're on the air.
Good morning, Priscilla. Good morning, Josh.
Hey, Larry.
Ellison.
How you doing?
How are you?
Oh, hey, Larry.
First,
How
let me
you doing,
say,
man?
I know, Josh. I know Jamal's question. I can answer that from a personal perspective on what the Kraft family has done and continues to do behind the scenes in our community. I know we had several families. I know my time with the police department, the Kraft Foundation was a huge help in helping with families behind the scenes, not for any notoriety, recognition, just doing the work. I remember after the last Super Bowl championship, and we need another one. There was a family in need that had a broken down vehicle, going through some tough times. In fact, a lot of people know Mindy Butt. And they sent some of the Patriots players out there. This was a day after they came to that home, took that family's vehicle, got it fixed, gave that family a substantial financial help, and was a game changer in their lives. And now that young lady is doing so well, and she's giving back, and she credits a lot of that to that help that she got and recognizing that help. So I want to thank you for that. And there's been many a times you guys have gotten us tickets to get young people to the games from the inner city that would have never been able to attend football games and things, not just football games, but just the interaction with people they would have never had opportunity to meet. But the one thing I want to talk about, I want to get your take on, is that, during COVID, there was a flush of money coming into the city. And I think what Boston needs now is really good management, someone who has a business background and running the city and applying that, because that money is now gone. And now the citizens in Boston, which I own property in Boston, are now faced with a huge tax increase, they're saying, coming next year, anywhere from 14 to 28%. And had that money been managed properly, we probably wouldn't be in this situation. So I just wanted to get your take on, why, on what we can do, because the citizens there are not going to be able to burden that tax burden.
Yeah, and I know it's kind of a tricky thing to talk about, but I'll say this, Larry. When I was running a big nonprofit, we always looked at ourselves like where we could save money, even in good years, in the budget. So, we looked like, all right, we can't present a budget that's X amount or Y amount over. But I think actually, whatever the issue is, taxes, whatever, the work of Priscilla, the group, vocal citizens, because in the end, any public people, I know Jamal mentioned Senator Warren and Joe Kennedy, and in the end, everybody, no matter what office they're in, whether it's the president down to dog catcher, you're beholden to the voters, the people that put you in office, and you need to be responsive to the need. You can't make every promise a reality, but in the end, anybody is responsive to the voter. You need to be responsive to the community, the voters, and that's why we're in a democracy. And so I would say people need to use like the skills Priscilla's teaching and Marcus Anthony Hall, be vocal about things you're not happy, whatever it is, if that's the answer. I don't know.
I think one of the things, and I'll let you go, one of the key things you said that I appreciate is that you said when you were looking at a budget, even during good times, you were cognizant that, this may not always be. And I think that's where the poor management in the city currently is taking place, is that they were feeding at the trough when there was so much not understanding that there will be a rainy day, and instead of passing that burden on to the taxpayers.
Well, Yeah,
preparing for it.
Yeah, I don't want to make comments. I'll just go back. That comes, and my dad, I know he's not listening. He'd laugh at this. He'd say, "Look, I don't care if you have money in your pocket. That doesn't mean you're going to spend it." And believe me, he made the message came to me and all my brothers loud and clear. So
No, and I appreciate that. That's what I'm saying. And
that's
the type of
probably what I
management,
should have said first. So.
Yeah, what we need is people that understand, managing a budget, but also managing, anticipating that not all the time it's going to be good and it's going to be flush with cash. Because I think I saw there was millions of dollars coming into the city, and now all of a sudden we have a tax problem. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Larry. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah.
Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning. I just want to thank you, Priscilla, for having Mr. Kraft today on your show. Mr. Kraft, I wanted to thank you. I was recently at Gillette to participate in the MECO headquarters retreat day that I know you allow us to have there. I'm a MECO director in the Lexington district, so, we very much appreciate that. It was a day that we were able to learn a lot, network with one another, and so thank you for that support of the MECO program, MECO headquarters. I would love to see how we could partner more for our students to have an experience at Gillette and to, as one caller said, our children don't often get there. So anything you could do, Priscilla has my information. She can share it with you.
Thank you,
I also
Pastor
wanted,
Barbara. Go ahead.
Yes. I also want to encourage you, how might the Kraft Foundation support Boston Praise Radio that makes shows like Priscilla, where we're able to learn information and also to get questions answered. I've appreciated your response to Jamal's call and learn more about all of the work that you're doing. So this is a unique opportunity for our community and for us, and so I'm going to unabashedly put in a plug for how might you be able to support Boston Praise Radio and its mission to educate the community and to build partnerships for the community. So again, thank you for coming on. Thank you for your support of MECO, and I hope that we'll be able to partner in other ways. And thanks, Priscilla.
Yes.
Thanks, Barbara. I was just going to say, I'm sorry I couldn't make that MECO. I usually get to that. Millie is a great friend, and I know Dr. McGuire, of course, legendary, is a friend, and Marvin McIntyre, who's on the board, is a great friend of mine, MECO. And I usually make it out. I'm sorry I couldn't make it there. And I'm sure Priscilla and Pastor Wall will speak to me about what you brought up at the end.
Great. All right.
All right. Thank you, Pastor
Take care.
Barbara. We have
Have a
another
great
caller.
day.
Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Hello?
Hello.
Hi. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. This is Nardella. Nice to be on the program. Doing a great job.
Thank you, Nadella, for calling in.
Of course. So my question is, well, I will say that I represent a group of homeowners, and I don't know if Mr. Kraft has heard about the minority and low-income homeowners who have filed a class action suit against Blue Hub Capital for practices of predatory lending and a lot of violations with the foreclosure laws or the mortgage laws that we have here in Massachusetts. And I guess the bigger issue that I have is that you have a company that comes in, supplants itself right in urban Roxbury, says that they're going to do good for the community, but in turn they actually have a method that's actually leading to a lot of minority homeowners losing their homes and being trapped in predatory mortgages with no chance of building wealth. And so the problem is, and I wonder if that the homeowners had to band together and organize and push, and we had to do this kind of on our own. And there seems to just be a real disconnect between hearing the impact that's happening with the citizens and then the politicians and these organizations that are just doing what they want to do. And if housing is such an issue, why aren't people banding together and really working on some real concrete, actionable items to make housing equitable? So I wondered if you had any comments, if you heard anything about the class action lawsuit, and actually as a member of the coalition that came together, I would love to have an opportunity, if possible, to actually meet with Mr. Kraft some more.
Yeah, so I actually, sorry to say, what was your first name again?
Her name's Nadella.
Nardella, I apologize, I didn't catch your name, but Nardella, I actually embarrassingly don't know really much about it. I may have heard a little bit, but I think being educated on anything is always helpful.
I think I might have mentioned it to you, but not in detail. But
Right.
I said that I had them on my show. They were victims of predatory lending with
unfortunately, a lot of it's
yeah,
horrible.
and so it's
what
just like
happened.
back in the 80s when they redlined us, you know,
Yeah.
and it's like they're doing it all over again. The issue this time is that they literally have lobbyists going into the State House trying to get this. Is it 256, Nadella? Is that the
Yes, Section
Yeah.
256 of the Economic Development Bill.
Yeah, so they keep trying to sneak it in, you know, and Nadella and her group continues to go up there, you know, and so I'm not gonna go there, but the issue is that they're a predatory lender. People are losing their equity. They come in and say, "Oh, we're gonna help you," and then they purchase your home, and then they resell it to you at a higher interest rate, and they tell them, "Oh, well, you can refinance in a year." When they go back that year to refinance, they find out that they have a second mortgage. They're like, "No, we don't have no second mortgage." They're like, "Yes, you do. It's called shared appreciation mortgage, SAM." And so if they so they can't refinance because they got to pay off that second mortgage.
Right.
And then if they do decide to sell or refinance, the people want 75, 80% of their equity.
Of the
Equity,
sale. Yeah,
yes.
the equity in the
And
house,
if that's not predatory lending, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
And yet we have some of our legislators, some of our elected officials, I'm just going to call it what it is, that are literally receiving campaign funds and they are ignoring it. And they had, I mean, it's ridiculous. So we got to depend on the judge now because we went to court. But then again, they still can get it through the legislation.
Yeah,
You know, so
yeah, I don't know much, but maybe Nardella can educate me. You know.
maybe I can.
I
Maybe
would
we can.
I would
We can
love
get
to meet
together.
with
I
you.
can set up something.
I don't really know.
I would
and
love to do that.
I don't like to
Because I
comment
actually-
on things I don't know
Yeah,
about. So.
yeah. But
Right,
I'll
right.
make it. I'll make it happen now, Nadella.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And I wanted to actually ask, like, what have you heard are some of the concerns from the people who live in Mattapan and Dorchester and Roxbury? Because it was really interesting. The previous callers said that, there seems to be thriving, but there doesn't seem to be an elevation of the quality of life for people of color who have lived in this community. There's no thriving, or if you are thriving, you're no longer a resident in Boston.
All right, now, yeah, so I go back to what we said early on in the conversation with Priscilla, and it's all about access to opportunity, and there's places, and one of the, Priscilla talked at the beginning about jobs and housing, cost of living indirectly. Another big thing is, health equity, and this isn't a current issue. This has always been, an issue for years. For a lot of folks, and whether it was 5 years ago and whether it's 10 years from now, these issues need to be addressed. They've always needed to be addressed.
But it seems
Well, I want to thank you
right.
for being on. It's good, Priscilla. Keep doing what you're doing, and Mr. Kraft, I hope you come back as a recurring guest on Priscilla's program.
Thanks, Nardella.
Keep up the great
and
work.
You can
Thank
call
you.
me Josh. So.
Okay. I'll say that when I meet you face to face.
Okay.
We'll talk
you.
later, Nadella. Thanks for calling
Have a great
in.
day. Thank
too.
you.
All right. How much time we have, Pastor? Wow, we got like.
Almost 10.
Yeah, we have another caller. Oh, okay.
That's enough.
Pastor. Well, Pastor, you need to train some engineers through the Academy of Broadcasting. So one of the things that we have here is called the Academy of Broadcasting, where in the summertime we get youth from Madison Park, and sometimes we get youth from other places too, and we bring them in, and they do broadcasts. They do live broadcasts. They're trained by pastor and another staff member, and so. What we're building here is we want to build a platform for our youth to be able to come in on Saturdays and do their programming, like say from like 9 to 12 every Saturday. The youth, the broadcast of Academy, because they can be trained here, but there are also some folks at BNN that have been doing the work that can train them as well. And what we're looking at, and this is what we need. We need a 7 to 9 hour on the radio station every day, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. to get those callers that drive in. Because see how this station was brought about was there was an opening for a 24-hour FCC license, and it was between Boston Praise Radio, LaSalle College, and the city of Boston. And so what Pastor said was, instead of us fighting over this, why don't we just split the hours 3 ways? So everybody gets 8 hours. So our time is 2 a.m. to 9 a.m. every morning, Monday through Friday. And then on Saturdays, it's the same time. And then they have time on Saturday. So it's broken up. So Boston Praise Radio have their 8 hours, LaSalle College have their 8 hours, and the city of Boston have their 8 hours. And so that's the breakup, that's the makeup. But we're FCC, we're low powered, so we can't even do advertising. All we can do is get people to sponsor us, And he's had this since 2010. He started this, And we have a caller. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Oh, hi. How are you?
Good. I'm, calling in from Lynn. I live in Lynn, Massachusetts.
Uh-huh.
And as I listened to the last caller, Nadella,
Mm-hmm.
the legislation that's being pushed right now was enacted by the representative from my district in Lynn. So it's not only Roxbury, North Dorchester. This mortgage program, extends to other communities. And it's mostly the people of color. Right now I'm in the hospital because I broke my arm, and I'm here concerned and worried about what's going to happen to my home while I'm struggling to pay this mortgage with a high interest rate. And, it just seems no end in sight. So...
Thank you for calling, caller. Are you...
The gentleman on the program, Mr. Kraft, is not aware fully of what the program consists. This is it. A lot of people are not aware because the company in particular that's pushing this mortgage, they pride themselves as being a company that's there to help people, and which is not true.
Are you, caller, are you a victim of Blue Hub? Or...
Yeah, Blue Hub. I'm talking about the Blue Hub mortgage program.
Right. So, Miss Josh isn't very familiar with the program, but we're going to meet with Nadella, and she's going to give us give him more information to, so that he'll know clearly about it. But
okay, that would be good.
Yes. But we are almost out of time, and I thank you for calling. I appreciate it, and we're in the fight. The National Coalition Against Predatory Lending. We are in this fight, and we're going to stay in this fight, because when we fight, we win.
Exactly. Thank you so much.
Thank you for calling. And are we out of time, Pastor? Okay, so.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Bye-bye. Thanks for calling. So, Josh, you want to, like, if anybody want to get in touch with you or you have last words, you have 2 minutes.
2 minutes? That's a long time. No, I appreciate you having me on, Priscilla, and Friendship, and Pastor Wall, of course, and just want to say thanks for the opportunity to share what the family's done in our community work and our belief in community, bringing folks together, and creating as much access to opportunity as we can. So thank you, and continue your work with the civic engagement and the kids. You know, democracy, in my opinion, is the best form of government. So you're teaching kids about it. So let them appreciate, so they